You just learned all about the while loop and the different ways to control it. So now we're going to move on to a whole new loop, and it's kind of a counter-controlled while loop, but a new way to do it, at least new to you. So let's get started. You just finished learning about the while loop and all the various ways to control it. In this lesson, you will learn about a different loop structure. It's called the for loop. Let's go look at the details. Most forms of repetition can be managed with the while loop. However, the for looping structure is a specialized form of a while loop. The main reason you'll want to use a for loop is because it's a simplified version of the counter-controlled while loop. So the for loop is called a counted or indexed for loop. The syntax for the for statement is you have for, your initial statement, loop condition, and your update statement, all within these parentheses. And then, of course, what's going to happen. The initial statement, loop condition, and update statement are called for loop control statements. This slide shows the flow of a for loop. First, the initial statement executes. It initializes the variable and sets the beginning value. Second, so here's the initial statement. Second, the loop condition is evaluated to either true or false. It checks if the results of the relational operators, which are less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, or not equal to, that's your relational operators. It looks at those, and if it's true, it does certain statements, updates the initial statement, and then checks again to see if it's true, less than, greater than, etc. And it'll keep doing this loop as long as this condition is true. Once it's false, it exits your loop. Okay, so here's a real short example. The following for loop prints the first 10 non-negative integers. For I equals 0, so we're going to set it beginning at 0. Is I less than 10? That's our check. That's where our condition that we evaluate, either true or false. And here we add 1 to I each time we go through the loop. So we print 0, I, which is 0 right now, end of the loop, so it goes back around. Now it says, oh, we ended the loop, so we add 1 to it, goes around. I is less than 10, well, it's 1 right now, so no, so it'll print a 1. That's the end of the loop. See, this semicolon means the end of that for statement, so it goes back around, it adds 1. When it gets to the end, it adds 1 because of this I++, and it checks again, but now it's 2, and you'll keep doing this until what? Until it's 10, and then the loop will end. So right here is your initializer that actually initialize your variable. Here we set it to 0. You could set it to any value you choose. Here we check to see the condition, is it true or false? And here is our update statement to update the value of I every time it goes through the loop. Here's a couple real short examples of for loops and show you the difference with what happens with them. So we have our for statement in number 1, and it says for I equals 1, so we're going to make I start out as 1. Is I less than or equal to 5? That's true. So it prints hello. And then on the next line, it prints a star. Here's our curly braces. So this is the part that it looks at this all as one statement, right? So it prints those, and it goes back up. We're going to add 1 because we ended that statement here for the for. So we add 1. Now I is 2. Is it less than or equal to 5? That's true. So it prints hello and a star. Now it's 3. Prints hello and a star. Now it's 4, then it does it one more time, and it's 5. So it'll do hello and a star because equal to is working here as well. And then on that 6th time, it will end the loop and exit. So here's what your data would look like. Hello star, hello star, hello star, hello star. Of course, there would be the first one, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, and there should be one more, right? Because there would be number 5. So there should be one more here. So let's look at the second example. For I equals 1, I is less than or equal to 5, I plus plus. It's exactly the same program except we don't have the curly braces. Without the curly braces, it sees this statement as the end of your for statement. So you'll get 5 hellos and then 1 star, because the star is not part of the for loop. If you want more than one statement to be part of that for loop, it has to be in your curly braces. Curly braces cause all the statements inside them to be seen as one big statement. If there are no curly braces, then only one statement is part of your loop. Here's a few quick comments about the for loop. If the loop condition is initially false, the loop body does not execute. So if it's false right away, you don't get it doesn't do the body of the loop. The update expression, when executed, the part that you update the value, changes the value of the loop control variable, which should change in some way at some point in the future to false. If it never turns false, your loop will run indefinitely. C++ allows you to use fractional values for loop control variables. That means decimal values, right? Real data. The problem is different compilers will handle that differently, so you probably shouldn't do that. A semicolon at the end of the for statement, just before the body of your loop, is a logical or semantic error. If you have a semicolon at the end of your for statement on that first line, then your body of your loop will never execute. It'll see that body as empty. In the for statement, if the loop condition is omitted, it's assumed to be true. So if you don't check anything, it's going to be true. In a for statement, you can omit all 3 statements, and that's fine. Your initial statement, loop condition, and update statement. However, the for statement must contain 2 semicolons if you do that. In the next slide, we're going to show you what will happen if you do that. Okay, so here we have the for loop executes 5 empty statements. Okay, we have for I equals 0, I is less than 5, add 1 to I. We say see out a star. But we put a semicolon here at the end of the for statement. That will make it end. The for statement ends right here. So it'll do 5 times, and the see out will be once outside the loop. It's not part of the for statement because it is semicolon. You could also put for semicolon semicolon in parentheses, but if you did, you're going to have an infinite loop, and it'll just go forever. It would never end. Remember, a syntax error is like a grammar error. The compiler will find your syntax errors. However, a semantic error is a logical error. The compiler has no way of knowing you really meant to subtract when you added, or that you really meant to put 2 semicolons there, or that you really meant to do something other than what you really did. In other words, the computer will do exactly what you tell it to, right or wrong. As long as it's not a syntax error, it's going to do what you say. The semicolon at the end of the for statement indicates the for loop is terminated. The for loop is empty and null when you put a semicolon at the end of the for loop. All right, so here's an example subtracting in a for loop. For I equals 10, so it's starting out at 10. Is I greater than or equal to 1? Yeah, it's at 10. All right, so we do a space, and then we print out I, which is 10. And then we do the loop, and now we subtract 1. Now I is 9. Is 9 greater than or equal to 1? Yeah. So we do a space, space, and then we print a 9. End of line, so now we subtract 1. It goes back around. Now I is 8. Is I greater than or equal to 1? Yeah, so it prints a space and then the 8. You see the rhythm here, okay? And it'll keep going until I is equal to 1, okay? Then it prints a space here, space and a 1. And then we subtract 1. Now I is 0. So it checks, is I greater than or equal to 1? No, it's a 0. So we've finish the loop, it goes outside the loop and on with your program. You can increment or decrement, in other words, add or subtract the loop control variable by any number you want. The following for loop, the variable is initialized to 1, and at the end of the for loop, I is incremented by 2. So every time it goes through, it increments by 2. So it starts out at 1, then it prints a space and I, so it prints the I, then it adds 2, so now I is 3. Is I less than or equal to 20? Yeah, it's less than 20. So it does a space and prints a 3, and then now we add 2, so it becomes 5. Here's all our output, and then of course eventually it'll be 19. Is I less than or equal to 20? Yes, so do a space and then 19, and then we add 2 and it becomes 21, right? Is I less than or equal to 20? No, so the loop ends. We're adding 2 here, but you can have any number you choose, whatever works for your program. In part 5, you are going to learn about the do while loop. So now you understand the for loop, you understand the while loop. In the next part, you're going to learn about the do while loop. I'll see you there.